Hi, it's Smee. Hello Smee, I hear you say. I'm going to pop in the kitchen and get this flipping gadget fixed up on the tap so that my RO unit will work in the kitchen, in the warm and dry, in theory. And then we're going to come back out here to have a look at what can only be called a serious problem. Not for the first time, but I think the expression "it's back" is suitable. So let's get out in the kitchen and get this tap sorted out first. I've got my PTFE tape, so I'm just going to see if I can pinch this gadget up and stop it leaking. It's either going to work or it's not. Very simple process. I haven't used PTFE tape for a very long time, and all I remember is that the tape has to go round anti-clockwise, if I remember rightly. So it doesn't matter if it creases or anything, it's so fine. But I mean, it's I think it's 12 meters here. I need about 6 inches. Well, whatever. Yeah, so this has to go round the thread anti-clockwise, which is that way. And this stuff you just pull it tight basically as you wind. The number of turns you make is always debated. You speak to plumbers, and some of them will say, you know, this many, and some will say, well, use your eyes and, you know, judge it, and others will say it has to be at least this, and they'll go on. It's like talking about orchid feed, they'll go on for ages. The problem is the thicker the amount of tape you put on, the more difficult it is to get the thread to start. So there's a limit. So I'm just going to go round a few times and see if it works. Said it'll either work or it won't. Two chances, isn't it? Right, now the hard bit is getting the thread to line up, because it was hard enough before. Now it's got tape on it. The trouble is, why it's leaking, I believe, is that it doesn't go in far enough. The reason it doesn't go in far enough is it's just something inside the tap itself stopping it. This was going to be difficult once the tape got on there. Oh. Might not even be able to put it in there with the tape on it. So like I said, when you do a fine thread, metal to metal, you've basically shot yourself in the foot, because you've just done a very poor design, simply because it's so easy to cross thread. Ah, it's just gripped. Right, and we'll pinch that up. Like that. Right, now the test. Oh. I'll be back. Oh no, it won't, it's up here. I was just going to say I've forgotten the other bit. It's not going to work without that, is it? That doesn't need any tape, because this seals fine, this bit. Well, it did before. If the other bit now seals, it might push a leak farther down onto the... Right, that goes on there, and then we turn the tap on. And quite honestly, it's leaking even worse. That is bad, isn't it? That's worse than it was before. I suspect what's happened is that as I screwed that in with the tape just got pushed out of the way, because the thread's so fine. And it's like I said, it's just a bad design. The people who do these things are not the people who use them. They put a nice coarse thread on there, like this one, then the tape would work, and it probably would have screwed in and wouldn't leak anyway. Yeah, it's just pushed the tape down, so the tape is ineffective. Now that could be that it was too thick. I wound it round too many times, so we could try it again with less turns and see if that will do it, but I don't think it will, quite honestly. I think it's just not going to work. The only other alternative is to get some sort of liquid sealant that sets. The problem with that is obvious. It then means that that's permanently glued on there. And it's not my tap, don't forget, this is a rented property. Right, I'm just going to try going round less times. Just a couple, and see if it'll just bite. I don't think it's going to work personally. Right, that's a few less times now. As I said, I think it's just the design, it's the fact that this thread is so fine and doesn't screw in far enough to start with. I mean, that inherently is the problem. It doesn't screw in far enough. It's not getting a chance to seal. And that will be the design of the tap, not the gadget, don't forget. As I say, the other alternative is to get some sort of sealant and do it up and let it set. I don't think that's going to make a blind bit of difference. It's just going to leak. Now, I mean, if the worst comes to the worst, I'll be stuck with using the outside tap as I was before, which this time of year is a bit weather dependent. I don't really want to be doing it in the rain, and I don't really want to be doing it in freezing cold, and it's a long walk. But when the better weather comes, I'll be using the conservatory door, and it's just there, and the water would go in the conservatory anyway. Are you going to leak? That's got it. By Jove, we've got it. That's not leaking at all. Well, there's a very, very slight drip, which in theory means we get a reasonable flow out of here. That's not bad. That's not bad. So let's put the full pressure on, tap full on. Yeah, it works. So yeah, the tape was just too much. There is a very, very slight drip, and that drip is actually coming from down here, I believe. So that probably means there's something in the in this bit that's not quite done up tight. That's supposed to go round and round like that. Oh well. Sure, that's not supposed to spin round like that. Oh well, as I said, it's the slightest of leaks. It's not really reducing the pressure much at all. As we had a stream down the tap last time round, and as I said, I wasn't prepared to put up with that on the grounds that we've got wastewater going down the sink. I don't want two streams of wastewater, but we do have a slight leak here. Oh well, it's much better than it was, and it's now usable. I'd be happy to use that. We do get quite a spurt when we release the pressure. It just shows how much pressure there is in there. But yeah, okay, happy with that. And the only other thing that's got to be done is the there's a towel. Is the flow restrictor's still got to be changed, and again I'll try that both ways. I'll try it with the existing one, I'll try it with the new one, and see the difference in the amount of water that comes out of the waste and the amount that comes out of the blue. Right, that's all I'm going to do faffing around with that. I expect everybody's had more than enough, but at least that's now usable indoors. Somebody did mention something I hadn't thought of. It ties your tap up for rather a long time. But then I did think, yes, but all you've got to do is turn it off and just pull that off and you've got your tap back. And then put it back on and start again. It's not really the end of the world, is it? Right, there's something rather disconcerting in the grow room that I need to show you, and it's not very nice. So I'll shut down and we'll pick up again in the grow room. Oh, it really stinks out here. And it stinks out here because two plants got sprayed with that today. Not for obvious reasons. I've got two brassicas. They both came from Burnham's. I've had them a while, a few years I suppose. I think I got them together, not sure. But both of them had a yellowing old bulb, one of the oldest bulbs, and it was yellow. And I thought, yeah, if that's starting to go a bit soggy, that needs to come off. That was on the first one. So I cut it off. Now we haven't talked about that for a long time, have we? Okay, that's the old part of the plant. But that's not good. And then on the other one, I did the same thing and cut the yellowing bulb off, and it's the same. So both of those sprays got a heavy dose of the fungus clear. That's a systemic fungicide, and they will get another treatment in about 10 days time, and they might even get a third one. But yeah, we haven't talked about the dreaded F for a long time. The problem is that it can be inherent. When you get somebody produces seed and decides to see if they can get a new hybrid or something like that, everything should be checked for viruses, and all the tests should be done prior to generating thousands of new plants. It's not a cheap task, it's quite expensive, it's quite labour intensive, and I think those sort of tests are getting thrown out the window now and not being done. But that's an opinion, not a fact. But you have to bear in mind, I'm pretty confident that one of the brassicas that I've got is one of Burnham's own crosses. Now they have got their own lab, I believe, where they can actually germinate and bring on seedlings, although I've never seen it, and they may well send them off, send the seed pods off and get them done elsewhere and then get the plants back. I don't know, but I know that fusarium exists out there, and it does get into private collections, and I think it's perpetuated in private collections, but that's not where it starts out. It's highly unlikely that a perfectly clean collection in somebody's greenhouse suddenly becomes infected. It's unlikely. Although we must say it's spread through cutting utensils in the main. Certainly with fusarium, I mean, it's not a virus, it's a fungus for a start, so a virus test wouldn't show anything, it wouldn't come up. It's a fungus, and it lives on the inside of the rhizomes and at the base of the bulbs, and in a really badly infected plant it will get up into the plant and into the leaves and can even start discolouring the base of the leaves. But its telltale sign is the purple staining, the dreaded purple ring. So that's what it looks like, and it is obvious, you know, I mean there's no getting away from it. That is what that is. It's not a natural pigmentation, not on a brassica. There are some things like Phalaenopsis that have, it tends to be the ones that have the deep purple or the deep red flowers, and they often have a bit of pigmentation at the base of the plant. And sometimes at the base of the leaves. That's not to be confused, because that is not normally on the inside of the rhizome, which is where fusarium lives. It lives on the inside edge of the rhizome. So just inside the hard outer coating. It lives just in there. That's why it forms a ring. What it basically does is it gets in the pathways. So all the little pathways where the nutrients and the hydration and everything pass through, because they don't go up through the middle. You know, they go, it's like trees. You know, nothing. The centre of a tree is solid wood. The passage of the, you know, of hydration and everything like that is between the bark and the wood. It's in that area, and it's the same with orchids. And that fusarium just bungs it up. So it basically stops the plant hydrating properly and stops it feeding itself. And under normal circumstances, some plants can live with it for some time. Some just go downhill slowly but surely and can take years to actually show serious signs of going downhill. That's why it's such a nuisance. And the only certain way, as far as I know, to actually prove that you've got it is to cut a piece off. Now, a lot of my plants were treated routinely a few years ago. Whether these brassicas were or not, I don't know, so I lost my notes, didn't I? But I used to do a treatment in the spring where everything that was susceptible, not everything in the grow room, but things that are susceptible are mainly Cattleya types and Oncidium types. Also some of the monopodials, Vandas can get it, Phalaenopsis can get it. Unfortunately with the monopodials, once they get it, it's normally doom. Because if you think about it, Cattleyas grow new things and Oncidiums grow new things, and if you stop this fusarium living by, you know, systemic fungicide treatment, you sort of stop it spreading, you stop it getting into more parts of the plant, then the new parts of the plant can grow clean and leave the infected part behind. You know, you stop it effectively. Stop it getting any worse. But with a monopodial, if it's blocking the rhizome as it climbs upwards, well, there's no other path, is there? So, you know, it's not very good if they get it. But with Oncidium types and Cattleya types, they can grow clean, providing the plant is treated and the new growths progress from that point. So they should be growing clean. And the idea is, after a few years of repeat treatments, you cut the old part of the plant off and stick it in the bin. Don't stick it in your compost bin. Stick it in the bin, or put it in the fire or something. But don't get it anywhere where it can spread. Yeah. So just a quick update on the dreaded. I won't say it's back, because it's possible these have always had it and they came with it. But anyway, those two bulbs were feeling quite soft. Yeah, they're spongy. So the chances are they've got liquid in them, and that liquid could well have a bacterial infection. So they were better cut off. But in doing so, we found another nasty. Anyway, I don't want everybody going into panic mode. We can if you like. It's up to you. Well, it won't do you much good. But yeah, Oncidium types are prone. Obviously brassicas come into the Oncidium alliance, so Cattleyas can be as well. I have heard people say that they've had it in Dendrobiums, in Nobile types, but I personally haven't. I've only come across it in Cattleya types and Oncidium types. And at one point I was buying Cattleyas from a lady on eBay, lovely lady. I actually bought quite a few plants, and she lived on my route to Burnham's. So I made arrangements to call in and pick my plants up, and she showed me round. It was just an ordinary house with tables and surfaces absolutely smothered in orchids. And it turned out every plant I bought from her had fusarium, which I'd never heard of and didn't know I had. And every single one of the plants I got from her slowly died. Every single one, without fail. And there were some beauties in amongst those. I've got one. There is one still here that came from that purchase. And strangely enough, she gave it to me. It was in bloom, up on the top of a kitchen cabinet. And I said, "Oh, that's attractive." She said, "Oh, you can have that if you want it." And it is, where would it be hiding? It's mounted, I do know that. But where? Where would it be? Where would it be lurking? Oh, there it is. It's this one. And I've been trying to get this to grow for a very long time, having treated it and then treated it again the following year. And it's this one, which is currently pushing out new growths. One right up the back there, just a little point, another one here, another one here, and another one round here. And I think there's one in the middle of the plant as well. So it's currently pushing out lots of new growths. Now if this plant was treated now, in theory those new growths would be clean, but it would have been better to treat it before they started. Then they would probably be absolutely clean. But this plant grew some nice bulbs last year following treatments, and is now sending out a load of new growths, and I expect that to bloom. I think that's coming back quite nicely now. But no, as I said, I mean, that arrived with fusarium, and that was a lot of years ago, and it's still with me, and it's now growing reasonably well. The reason it wasn't growing reasonably well before is because it didn't have any roots. That's another story. Anyway, this nasty is around. I'd stick my neck out and say in the UK and possibly many parts of Europe, every private collection's got it in some shape or form, in one or two plants or many plants. They may, you know, the growers may know, and they may not know. I mean, I look at it like this. I've given plants away and sold plants on. They've all been treated. So to the best of my knowledge, they left here okay. But I will say it can flare up. So even though you've used your systemic and followed the instructions and you've repeated it, possibly, you know, you do 2 or 3 treatments initially, about 10 days apart, I think, and then you can do another one like 3-4 months later, then another one at the end of the growing season, and then possibly treat it again at the start of the following growing season. Really go to town on it. And to all intents and purposes, you've stopped it spreading. So I won't say cured it, because it's a difficult expression, but you stop the spores expanding. You sort of, because it's the spores that do the damage. So you stop it creating any more. The damage in the plant can't be repaired. The bits that are bunged up are bunged up. They don't ever get better, no matter what treatment you use. So those bits are lost. They're bunged up. They don't work properly. It can stop roots functioning properly. You know, because literally the path up from the root into the plant and then up through the plant is blocked. So it stops roots working properly. It's a polite version, a bit of a nuisance. Impolite version, not when there's ladies around. Anyway, as I said, I've had it around on and off. Well, you've seen me when I repot. Every chance I get, I cut a rhizome. Well, that's the reason I'm doing it, because unless you cut it, you don't see the pink, and therefore you don't know. You can do routine treatments, which I can't say I'll recommend it, but in theory it shouldn't do any harm. But it can get expensive if you've got a large collection. But the plant needs to be absolutely soaked. Undersides, top sides of leaves, rhizomes, and quite honestly, I quite like giving a good spray to the top of the pot so that it soaks down into the surface roots and all that as well. And then it can be passed up into the plant through the roots, providing they're working, of course. So I like to give it the best possible chance to get into the plant. And then, as I say, about 10 days later it needs doing again. Well, read the instructions, you know, I mean, all systemics have probably got, you know, slightly different instructions. But down at the bottom, certainly in this country, if you've managed to find a systemic fungicide, the chances are the active ingredient is the same in all of them, because we're not allowed to have much. We've stopped most of it. Anyway, that's what is currently on the go for me. It seems to work, although it's difficult to tell, you know, without hacking a plant to pieces. But yeah, obviously it works best if it's a growing plant, because it gets in and stops anything spreading into those new parts of the plant. But I can't guarantee it always works. You know, I've had plants that have been badly infected. They're just too far gone. They can't grow any new structures because they can't feed and hydrate themselves. They've gone too far. And the sensible place for those is, you know, in the fire, quite honestly. Get rid of it. So, anyway, that's cheered everybody up, hasn't it? Right, let's cheer somebody up. Let's have a nice look at a yellow twinkle. It's starting to get dark out here. Anyway, that's the little gadget on the tap, sealed. So that can just stay there now, there's no need to remove that. I might remove it when I move out and put the plastic one back in. So I might need to take it somewhere else if ever I have to move again, which I probably will one day. Anyway, yeah, so it's out there, and there's only one sure way to find it. No test or anything is going to find it for you. And the treatment is a systemic fungicide. If it's not systemic, it won't work. It has to be something that gets inside the plant and stops these spores being produced and sort of stops it in its tracks. And then make absolutely sure. It's all good fun, isn't it? I haven't talked about that for ages. I'm sure that'll generate a load of questions as well. I'm not the world's leading expert on it, but when I first discovered it, it was Anna Maria, who doesn't seem to post anymore, but she did lots of write-ups. She even produced an ebook on the subject with all the different treatments and frequencies and all about the nasty gubbins and everything, which I read. You know, so I thought, well, if somebody's already done all the work and found everything out, it seems a bit daft reinventing the wheel when I can go and see the work that's already been done. So I went there, and then I also did some internet searches to find other information on it, and basically it all backed, you know, they all backed each other up. It all went together. So yeah, good stuff. But as I said, it can be treated, and in a lot of cases it can be stopped, and then eventually your plant will grow clean. You can cut the old bits off and you end up with a plant that's okay again. But you'll always have a worry. I mean, you know, I've got plants in here that I've had quite a long time now. They're always a worry. But yet again, I will wait until the warmer weather comes so that I know the plants are going to dry off, and I can do it outside, preferably when rain is forecast, so that I can, you know, spray the plants outside and then the rain will wash it all away. But then I'd have to look and find out, you know, well, hang on, is it doing damage to the environment? Because if it is, it'll have to stay in here. That's the way my mind works. Don't go spraying things outside if they can do damage, you know. So, but it's a fungicide rather than an insecticide. They're the ones I worry about most, you know, because a lot of them can kill the bees and all that sort of stuff, all the good insects out in the garden. Right, I'm off. I've got stuff to do. See you next time. Bye for now.